Welcome to Book Huddle. I'm your host, Karen Reader with Readgab. Today we welcome guest Philip Stead. He's an author of many picture books, right, Philip?
Yes, approximately 30 picture books over the years.
Approximately 30 picture books. And it's my understanding that his editor had been trying to cajole him for a while into writing a middle grade, right? So,
Yeah, her and a few other people have been asking me for years to try this, and I always put them off.
so he finally came to the call, and with one of the longest titles ever, I tease my husband actually because he's a historian and historians, academics have really long titles. I was like, so maybe Philip's an academic. A potion, a powder, a little bit of magic, or like lightning in an umbrella storm, a story out of order.
That's it.
All right, perfect. Well, we're excited to have you today, Philip. Can you just introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you, besides that you're an author.
My name is Philip, and aside from being an author, I'm also married to my wife, Erin Stead, who is also an illustrator, and we have an 8-year-old daughter. We have a dog named Rosalie that keeps me busy all day. We have 20 different fish whose names I won't go through at this time. I'm a daily runner and a stamp collector. How
Oh,
about that?
nice. Nice. I don't think I've met a stamp collector.
There
Neat.
aren't many of us left. As far as I know, I'm the only, there's only one other person under the age of 50 in my town of Ann Arbor, Michigan that collects stamps, and that person's my daughter. So,
It's your daughter. Nice. I love it. I love it. All right. So tell us what a potion of powder, a little bit of magic, or like lightning in an umbrella storm, a story out of order is about.
well, I have to, begin with the caveat here that it's a very difficult book to sum up quickly. Um,
Right?
so I
No
will do my
elevator pitch.
best.
We're going on the elevator pitch of getting up to the top of the Empire State Building, right?
Yeah, yeah. This is a long elevator pitch. So, at its simplest level, the book is about a 12-year-old girl named Bernadette who is a keeper of the castle goats. And in this kingdom, in this book, the castle is resting on the back of a herd of 24 goats. The goats are the foundation for the castle and for the kingdom. And Bernadette is in charge of caring for them. Until one day, one goat goes missing. And this sort of upsets both the literal and emotional balance of the kingdom and the king, which sets a whole series of unfortunate events in motion, and also sort of forces Bernadette out into the world for the first time, on a quest of her own. So that's the really simplified version of the story. But there's also a second story that's happening in parallel to this story, and it's the story of a sort of hapless author trying to figure out how to tell this story in the best way possible, and sometimes feeling very confident about the choices he's making, and sometimes losing hope in his own story. And it's sort of like a heightened and fictionalized version of my own experience of writing this book.
That was going to be my next question. Are you the hapless author? So,
Yeah, I am and I'm not. So it's sort of a caricature of me,
okay,
and what I go through. So I do have the same highs and lows that this author has,
right.
where you
Throw
have the
the pen
day.
out the window.
Yeah, like metaphorically throw it out the window when you're just like, I can't do this, I don't know what I'm doing. But then also those days where you just feel like, oh, today I'm a genius. It's all just flowing out of me. It's perfect, until you come back to your own writing the next day and it's all slop for some reason. Um, so yeah, I wanted to, play that for comedy, but also for reality. I mean, that is the real experience of any creator.
Right. Right. Well, I totally feel that way. So I have multiple manuscripts and I'll sometimes be reading and I'm like, I am the best. I made this. And then other times
Hmm.
it's like, I'm the worst. Oh, gee. So I totally could relate to this author. And I think you're right that creatives just feel that way. It's just these constant up and downs. So we talked about that your editor had been begging for this story, but can you tell us a little bit more about what led to the day that you came up with this?
Well, it's hard to know exactly when to begin, because I've been working in picture books for basically my entire career. Um, I'm an illustrator before.
Hmm.
I was an illustrator before I became a writer. So I went to art school. I've always identified as an artist first. When I was 3 and 4 years old, if you were to see me, I would be sitting in a corner drawing. I would not be, dreaming up stories. Um, but early on in my picture book career, it became apparent to me that I could have more control over the art I wanted to make and also the art I wanted other people like Erin, my wife, to make if I were to write the stories myself
Nice.
instead of just waiting for content to come to us. And so I started kind of honing my own writing abilities early on. I never really considered early on the possibility of writing longer fiction. I think I was sort of uniformly obsessed with the idea of picture book writing, and picture book writing is such a unique and different sort of writing skill that
Yeah.
doesn't cross over very well into other forms of writing. And if it does, it's not into forms that you might think. It doesn't always translate up into middle grade. It might
Right.
translate out into poetry or out
Okay.
into stand-up comedy or out
The
into
stand-up
even like
comedy.
writing for theater or
I
film.
I could feel the stand-up comedy here in your
Yeah, yeah.
book about the goats.
There is there are a lot of things that kind of inform picture book writing that make picture book writing unique. Um, but at the same time, it was middle grade books and middle grade writing that really shaped me personally
Okay.
when I was a young kid. So I was at third and fourth grade. It was in third and fourth grade when I really became a fully independent reader, and that's when books really came alive for me. And so the books that I loved at that age are the books that there've probably never been other books in my life I've loved as much as the books I loved then.
Nice.
Um, and so there was some part of me that wanted to try it, but
Yes.
maybe I was afraid to try it for a long time. So in 2014, so about a dozen years ago, I was asked to complete a manuscript for a children's story that had been started but never finished by Mark
Okay.
Twain.
Oh,
And yeah, and Erin was going to be the illustrator. And the way that we sort of conceived the project together is we imagine it as a very long form picture book. It ended up being a 150-page picture
wow.
book and somewhere between 10 and 15,000 words to the
Right.
manuscript. So it
Right.
wasn't quite middle grade because it,
Hmm.
it really it leaned heavily on artwork, but it wasn't quite a picture book
Okay.
either. And that was the first time I'd really dabbled with long form writing, and I really enjoyed it. Um, I enjoyed finding a new voice for myself,
Right.
but at the same time, with that project, I wasn't fully allowed to be completely myself. It was kind of half me, and I had done you know months and months of research into the voice of Mark Twain because I
Yeah.
also had to sort of complete the manuscript and have it sound both like he and myself at the same time.
Yes. Oh, wow. Wow. I
So
can.
after that book published in 2017, the book was called the Purloining of Prince Oleomargarine.
Okay.
And after that book published, that was when I really felt the itch to try it again, but be able to try it completely in my own voice to find out
Right.
what my voice really was. So
Yeah.
in 2018, I started writing, and it was just free writing at the time. I didn't really have a complete story arc in mind. Not at all, in fact. I didn't have much of anything. I just kind of had this image to start with, which is how a lot of picture books begin, with just an image. And the image was of a castle sitting on top of a herd of goats.
Because
Um,
why not?
because why not? Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't be that strange in the world of picture books
Right.
where you can do almost anything and
Yes.
and very, very small children will come along on the ride with you.
Right. They
So
just
that was
accept that. Yeah.
yeah, and so that was kind of the mindset I was starting from. And I was just free writing, and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote and I got to about 10,000 words, and I was enjoying what I was writing.
Nice.
I wasn't sure where it was going, but I was enjoying it, and I sent it off to a really trusted friend, and I asked her opinion, and she
Yes.
said that she liked it. She thought the language was musical and fun, and reminded her of other things that I'd done that she really loved. But she thought it was really strange that I took basically all 10,000 words to introduce my main character. I had not even introduced the main character of Bernadette until 10,000 words in, and really not much had happened either. It was like 10,000 words of just description and
Okay.
describing the various characters in the castle and describing like how the world functions. And she kind of gently prodded me into with the question of like, maybe something needs to happen. Like what
The
actually
story
happens?
maybe should have started by now.
Yeah. And it sounds silly, but like in picture books, you don't always need that much to happen,
Right?
and you can do a lot with very, very little. And so that's
Yes.
kind of how I've been trained as a writer. And I left that interaction with my friend feeling a little bit defeated
Yes.
because I had put a lot of work into it up to that point. So the book sat on a shelf for a while, and it just kind of pestered me from afar while I was working on other things.
Right.
And then one day, I really don't remember exactly the moment that it occurred to me, but at some point, it occurred to me that rather than starting over from scratch and throwing out everything I had, that she had told me that she got interested in the story right at the point that I had stopped. I thought, oh, well, what if I just put that part at the front
The
instead,
beginning.
and we'll just start there.
Nice.
And a lot of books do jump around in time,
Yeah, they do.
but I hadn't actually seen one that decided to keep to formalize the chronology in the way that I chose to do with this book,
Yes.
where I moved chapter 13 to the front. So
Right.
chapter 13 is the first chapter that you read, and I still call it chapter 13. So
Yeah.
I allow you to, I signal to you before you've even turned the page to the next chapter whether or not you're going to go forward or backward now. So you get chapter 13, 14, 15, then you go back to 2, 3, 4, then you jump forward again, and you go back and
Forever
forth.
waiting for chapter one. You know it's coming one day, maybe.
Yeah, chapter 1 ends up being the very last thing you
Yes.
read, and ends up tying together all the loose threads of the book.
Right. Oh, so that it's fun though. It's fun to do something different, right? So were you having fun with that as you were putting it together? Because that's once you started with that one that your friend told you to start with, you just went with it completely out of
Yeah, at
line,
that point,
right?
I wrote in a straight line. So
Okay.
what I didn't do is write the book in one order and then rearrange it like a puzzle for
Right.
readers. So the order that you read it is the order in which it was written from that day on. Um, and y if the question is, was it fun? I suppose in a way,
Okay.
the it was incredibly difficult because
Okay.
you can't when you're writing a story out of order and you read chapter 18 before you read chapter 12,
Yes.
well, you can't reveal something in 18 that hasn't, fully occurred yet
Yes.
in chapter 12 or whatever it is. You have to be
Right.
very cognizant of all the different pieces in the chronology. A character can't say something before they know something, that sort of
Right.
thing. And it did get really, really tricky at times to keep it all together in my head.
That's neat though. It's neat that you decided just to go with it, right? So I want to ask, has life gone in any kind of order that you as a child expected? Because, think back to your third, fourth grade, and I feel like it's kind of like that for us, right? That maybe things might go out of order. Did it go in the order you thought it would be for you in life?
Weirdly, yes.
Okay, okay,
If you were to ask me pretty much at any age aside from kindergarten when I thought I was going to be a mailman,
cool,
from that day on, if you had asked me what are you going to do, I would have said I want to be an artist and I want to illustrate books.
nice,
And except for maybe briefly in junior high when I would have told you it was comic books, not picture books or something like that.
right,
It's really been like a single trajectory in my life, and I was lucky enough to be able to be a full-time professional bookmaker really, really young. I mean,
nice,
very shortly after getting out of art school, I was working on my first book, and I really haven't done anything else since. So it's the only thing I only ever had a plan A. I never had a plan B in my life.
right.
So here I am in my mid 40s now, and I have no other marketable skills. So now I just have to do this forever.
That's right. Are you enjoying it?
Uh, it's always a tricky question. So I think the best piece of advice I've ever gotten in my life from someone is that they told me that you've got two really good choices in your life that you can make. You can choose to be happy or you can choose to be fulfilled, but be careful because you can't choose both. And what they meant by that is there are a lot of people who choose to be happy, meaning like maybe their job is not exactly what they imagine for themselves, but they've got so many other good things in their life. They've got, um, they've got their family, they've got their vacations they look forward to, they've got
Right.
their hobbies, and all of those things make them happy. So they don't need their job to make them happy.
Right.
But then there are other people who really need the work that they do to mean something
Yes.
on a daily basis. And I'm that kind of person.
Okay.
And those kinds of people are seeking fulfillment. So I
Okay.
do feel fulfilled, but the work itself often makes me miserable.
Oh,
Like, which I think
interesting.
a lot of creative people can identify with that. You go into
Okay.
work and it's hard,
Right.
the terrifying blank white page in front of you that confronts you on a daily basis. I mean, it's not always easy. You have moments where it's really fun, and
Right.
you hope you have more of those moments than not week to week. But it's not an endless joyful roller coaster either.
Okay. That's really interesting. I hadn't ever heard it explained like that because to me it often feels hand in hand. Fulfillment brings joy and things like that. So,
Well, maybe you're one of the lucky people that can have both.
ah, I don't make any money doing this yet. Maybe one day I will. My husband is. He is, it took quite a few years, but he's in a situation that he has both. All right. Tell us why 10-year-old Philip would love a story out of order, like a potion, a powder, a little bit of magic.
Well, I think my favorite books when I was, let's say, 8 to 10 years old, were the kind of books where I felt like I was in some kind of direct conversation with an author. And what I mean by that is that the writer of the book was respecting the reader, the young reader, enough to make it a little bit difficult, but to give them enough clues along the way to make the book almost like a kind of game or a kind of puzzle to solve.
Right.
And when I think back to the books that meant the most to me, I think about books like The Phantom Tollbooth by Norton Juster, which is full of like really high level wordplay, a lot of which was probably going over my head when I
Right.
was 8, but I still felt like, oh, it's still for me. He's writing this for me, even if I don't understand everything. Um, he knows that I am smart enough to get it eventually, and that made me
Nice.
feel uh, empowered as a reader. The Westing Game by Ellen Raskin is another one that I always bring up as
Okay.
having made me feel that way when I was a kid. All of the books by Roald Dahl when I was a kid made me feel that way. And so I think that there's, and all of those books I mentioned too also balance cleverness and humor
Okay.
in a way that I also try to balance in my own work, where it's the book is serious business, but it's not only serious business.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. While we're going all out of order, I love to do an author icebreaker and get to know you a little bit based on a book. So Frog and Toad, they this is like one of my favorite moments when they're eating the cookies and they're like, we must stop eating cookies, but they keep eating it and they eating it, and they've got to figure out their willpower. So tell us what it is for you trying to get willpower over that you just can't stop.
I think I am in a daily struggle to have willpower over procrastination.
Okay.
I will procrastinate longer and better than anybody you know.
You're a professional
Um,
procrastinator. Nice.
yeah, when I was doing my research into Mark Twain years ago,
Uh-huh.
I came across this saying of his that I completely relate to, and the saying was, "Never put off for tomorrow what you can put off for the day after tomorrow just as well." And that is how I feel in the studio every single day.
Yes. Nice. Nice. It makes me think of, did you ever read Alcatraz and the Evil Librarians and
No,
the
I don't think so.
the grandpa, his superpower is being late. And so your superpower is your ability to procrastinate so thoroughly. Nice. It's by Brandon Sanderson. Okay, so I love the morals in here, and some of them are so great, but some of them are a little wonky. So tell us about creating these morals, and did they very naturally come in, or were you like, and I'm gonna add some morals and stick them between some goats?
Well, yeah, a little context for anybody watching or listening here. Um, as you're reading this book, occasionally you come across a phrase or a sentence, and that phrase or sentence is set apart from the main text with two icons of little goats. It happens within the text that you're reading, but you know that it's special because of these two little icons of goats. Um, and each time that happens, that's to signify to you that this is one of the morals of the book, that there are 24 of them, 24 morals that appear throughout the book. And some of them are
So
just
of
played
course
for.
there would be because there's 24 goats. I
There's
love
24 goats.
24.
There's 24 morals. There are exactly 24 chapters in the book.
Nice.
The book starts on page 24. It's like this little running joke throughout. But the morals themselves, some of them, you know, as I was saying, they're just played for comedy. Like, for example, one of them is never stand up in a rowboat.
Right.
It's an important thing to know, but it's just in the flow of the text, it's just a funny moment. But there are also ones that really were meaningful things to me.
Right.
And I will say that none of the 24 were things that I had predetermined were going to be part of the book. It was
Okay.
always
So it just
you know,
came.
like, yeah, it was in the natural flow of writing, and suddenly there would be a word, or rather a phrase or a sentence that kind of occurred in the narrative, and I thought, oh, that's special. That means something.
Nice.
And it's funny because in my picture book life, I'm constantly telling people that books shouldn't have morals. That I never want to have a moral for a book. The
Yes.
best way to turn a child off is to have a moral for a book.
Okay.
But there was something kind of funny to me about leaning so hard into it in the other direction. So
Well,
instead of my
that's
book,
yes. I feel like that's the way to do it, right? Like with David La Rochelle's How to Apologize. Just completely lean into it. If you're going to do it, go all in, like you were saying.
yeah, yeah. If I had made a book and at the end I gave you the one moral, you'd think, oh well, that's
Yes.
let me decide for myself what this book means. But with
Yes.
24, it's a completely different proposition. You can take them or leave them, as you might encounter one that really does mean something to you, and
Right.
if it doesn't, you just move on and wait for the next one.
I love the interactive way too. Like when you start introducing the morals and you're like, and at the end, and there's a special place for morals. Where is it? Anyways, it says, yeah, morals in the book, just blank spaces. And so it leaves it up to them to like do what they
Yeah, there are 6 or 8 pages at the end of the book. They're just left blank
want.
for you to write them down as you go, if you choose to.
Right. All right. So we don't have time to do all 24, but I am going to just say some of the morals because you said how they're all important to you and you give us why. So I think, is this the first one? It is important not to be wasteful. Is that the first we were going to part? Yes.
Yeah. So there are different types of creative people in the world. There are people that, they just throw a million things against the wall and see which one
Hmm.
sticks. And then there are people that just whatever idea they have, they are just going to work on that idea and work on that idea until it's successful. And I'm the second type where, I really have never had an idea that hasn't turned into a book at this point.
Right.
And even if it doesn't work, I will
Gonna
find a
make it work.
way. I will find a way to make it work. Yeah, so I'm one of those people.
I really appreciate that because when Meg Medina was talking to me about like she has a graveyard file for her ideas, I'm like, oh, Meg, I want those to come to life. I want to know what's in the graveyard. So I like that
Hmm.
you're like, no, they don't die. They just
Yeah, no, they don't. A lot of
take
times, my
time.
ideas for stories, like maybe it's true that they don't become fully fledged stories,
Right?
but they'll make it into some other story.
Mm,
And this book is
nice.
full of little pieces of other stories.
Where
And
you've
so
like been
I,
able to use things that have been floating
yeah,
around.
there's like
And then
nothing left in my graveyard drawer after writing this book.
nice, nice. So now you've been having to come up with fresh ones. You have a nice blank page. All right. There's no use paddling in a river that cannot decide which way it is going.
Yeah, I think that's just one of the lessons of adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you're younger, you start to think, oh, I really can accomplish anything just through my own sheer will. That I
Right.
can I can push against the tide. I can um, work upstream, whatever your metaphor is. But then you know what? Sometimes there's just not, and sometimes you have to go um, with the current instead of against the current.
Right.
And they say I live near the Great Lakes,
Okay.
and the Great Lakes are actually it's really dangerous to swim in the Great Lakes
Oh,
because there
okay.
are these really, really aggressive riptides that,
Mm,
you might think you're only 20 yards from shore, but you don't
right.
realize there's this really aggressive riptide underneath you. And they always say if you get caught in one, you don't swim into it, you swim with it
Okay.
and let it take you out where it wants to take you, and then you'll be free and you can come
And then you
back.
go
And
parallel to the shore, right? And then find I
Yeah,
love
and
it.
I love that as just a metaphor for adult living too.
Nice, nice. All right, details matter.
Well, they do. Details
They
matter.
do. You're like, that one's pretty self-evident, Karen.
Yeah, especially if you are I can be a bit of a perfectionist in my work. In fact, the book you're holding in your hands right now is the advanced reader, and that book is full of errors because we had to print it before the book was really done. I
Yes.
wasn't done writing and I wasn't done illustrating, but at some point you just kind of have to say it's okay. It is what it is for now because we have to get this thing out so that bookstores know it exists. And it just bothers me to no end that the book that you're holding in your hands is full of mistakes.
Well, I have to tell you too, because my son saw me dog-earing this and writing in it, and he was like, Mom, you don't do that to books. Like, that's something you've taught us never to treat a book like that and to use bookmarks and da 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 da. And I was like, well, it's an arc.
It's just
It's
an
okay.
yeah,
It's
it's
an
just an
advanced
arc.
reader
Yeah.
copy. I can get the other one later and put it on my shelf. This is okay because it's a art.
Hmm.
So yeah, he was shocked because I'm always teaching them, don't treat a book like this. All right, sometimes you have to go forward to go backward,
Yeah, it's a little bit like the one about paddling in a river that can't decide which way it's going. I mean, sometimes you just have to see a thing through to the end
right?
to know if it was the right direction to be going in at all. And that was really true for me as I was writing this book. Like there were a lot of times where I really didn't know
Right.
where this story was going and if it was leading me anywhere helpful, but I just decided I would follow the paths it was naturally taking, and then once I got to the end of those paths, then I would decide, do I need to go backward?
Okay.
And
I like that.
in this book, I set myself up to be able to do that in a really nice way. I mean, if I got to the end of chapter 19, I thought, really, I haven't fully explained something earlier. Instead of having to do rewrites, I would just say, all right, well, I'll just put chapter 4 next. Chapter 4
Right.
will come after chapter 18, chapter 19, whatever. Um, so it became kind of not just a guiding principle, but also sort of hard baked into the book itself.
Right. Right. Okay. We're just gonna jump. I think this is the last one. And because I'd like to, I think this goes, yep, okay, this is the last one. And it's self-evident as well, but let's talk about it. You are who you choose to be. And for me, it made me think about it because we talked about that fulfillment versus joy. And this is why I do what I do, is because I chose it. I love children's books so much, and it took me a long time to get back to this. And I was teaching sixth grade and I loved it, but as many people know, it's hard to be a teacher and just work contract hours, right? And it
Mm-hmm.
was just like, there's so much going on being a mother. And so I was staying at home, and then we moved across the country to a much more expensive area. And so now I teach preschool and I love it for what it is. I find fulfillment in it. And that's how I rate books too, is I used to have kind of different rating system for myself when I'd rate books, and I'd be like, okay, but I'm not rating it against how much I love this graphic novel. When I first started rating graphic novels, I was like, because I didn't love them, I was like, okay, I'm rating it against the fact that it's a graphic novel and rating it for what it is. And so that's for me, I am a podcaster about children's books. I'm a children's literacy advocate, and I don't make money at this right now. It's a hobby, but I choose it because I do find joy and fulfillment in it. I guess the one thing I don't find in it is money, but it's very much that I feel fulfilled because I chose it.
Mm-hmm.
So, how about you? You are who you choose to be. Respond to that.
Well, so it's funny that you chose that one to pluck out because I just got done telling you that none of the morals were predetermined,
Right.
but actually I realized there was one. That was the
And that's
one.
the one.
Yeah, and that's the very last one you get in the book, and I left it for the end because I think it's the most important one.
Nice.
Um, as I was writing the book, a lot of times I was thinking about uh, a saying by one of my favorite authors, Kurt Vonnegut.
Right.
And the saying is, "You are who you pretend to be." It's something like that.
Okay.
It's not
Okay.
not exactly that, but you are who you pretend to be. So be careful about who you pretend to be. Like
Nice.
if you pretend to be, um, you know, an egotistical maniac, then that's exactly what you're going to be
There
to
you
the people
go.
around you. It doesn't matter if it's a put on. And we see
Okay.
that, in politics all the time, and the people
Hmm.
that lead our country. Um and that was the context in which he was writing it. It's like,
Okay.
even if it's a put on, it doesn't matter. That's what you are now.
Okay.
And that that really stuck with me when I read it. And I thought, but I think there's a simpler way to say it
Okay.
in my book and for my purposes. And that was, you are who you choose to be. So you can choose to be kind, you can choose to be
Yes.
mean. And once you've chosen that thing, that's what you are. So be very careful about what you choose.
Nice.
And it can mean anything. Like you said, you've chosen to take control of your life in some way,
Yes.
so that your life has a specific meaning that you want it to have. And
Yes.
I think that people don't realize that they have that choice, um, in both small scale and large scale ways.
Right.
Every single day you can make these choices. There's another quote. As long as we're talking about
Yes, let's do it.
morals,
Yes.
one that has stuck with me for years and years, but I don't remember who said it. It was somebody who was involved in, like, the slow food and gourmet food
Oh, okay.
world, and this woman. The comment that her words were something to the effect of, uh, "The way you choose to spend your days is the way you end up spending your life."
Yes.
And it's
I
I
was
didn't.
just thinking of a quote very similar to that somebody
Yeah, and
said
it
to me
didn't.
once. I said something very similar.
I apologize to her for butchering it, because I'm sure
Right.
I didn't get it exactly right there. But the meaning of it is quite clear. I mean, you make a million small scale
Yes.
choices for your life, but they add up to your entire life.
Yes.
Um, and so in my story, there's so many negative characters, so many characters that are sort
Yes.
of unsavory and hard to find sympathy for.
Right.
But Bernadette, the main character, is, given very little help along the way, still choosing at every stage to be brave and to be kind.
Yes.
Um, and that's why she's the hero.
Yes. I love it. And yeah, because there's really no huge villain, right? Like in some books, but there's this group of stinkers that live in the castle, and then of course the king is not savory at all. So yeah. All right. So let's do a quick little this or that. If you were going to have a pet, would you rather have a pet turtle? Because for those who haven't read it, the turtle is a very important character in the book. And we haven't mentioned the turtle yet. Would you rather have a pet turtle or a pet goat? And why?
Oh, I guess if I can't have both, I would go with the goat.
Go with the goat. Nice. Nice. Three legs or four? Just
Uh, Four, but three will do in a pinch.
doing a pinch. Nice. All right. Would you rather live in the country or the city?
I've done both, and I currently live in the city, but I really miss the country. So because I'm in the city now, I'm going to say the
Nice.
country.
All right. Would you rather have a wheelbarrow that you cannot wish on or a boat that you cannot wish on or that does not grant wishes?
I would rather have a boat who does not grant wishes,
Nice.
being a child of the Great Lakes.
Nice. I feel like the boat was more helpful getting places rather than having to push a wheelbarrow, right?
Hmm.
All right. In any moment in your life, would you rather be, I guess it's hard to say, you're constantly both, but if you got to choose reader or writer, just one for,
Oh, no question, reader.
nice.
Like, not even close. Writing is so hard, and reading gives me joy every single day.
Right?
Writing does not necessarily give me joy every single day.
Nice. Nice. All right. All right. And then I didn't think to ask before, but are you the illustrator?
Yes. So all the artwork in this book is by me as well.
Nice. Nice. I love the grumpy goat on the cover. Stinking Lancelot, right? All right. So can you tell us what's next? More picture books, more middle grade? Do you have a plan? Is there anything already contracted out? What is coming for Philip?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. So my wife Erin and I, sometimes we collaborate on books, sometimes we work on books separately, but actually we end up collaborating on everything in
Okay.
some kind of way, even if
Right.
we don't
Because you're
always have our
bouncing
name
your
on the front
ideas
cover.
off of each other as you're working and sharing your progress, right?
Yeah. And this is the most we've ever had going in the studio at once. So we've got 10 different books in different phases of production.
Wow.
From I've got a picture book about bird watching that I really love right now. I'm working on a 3-book middle grade mystery series,
Ooh, fun.
which will be my next middle grade thing. And then I'm helping Erin, who is working on a traditional fairy tale. She's working on Puss in Boots right now.
Oh, cool.
Um, she's also working on a Christmas book that
Nice. Both
we're
picture books for her.
all picture books for Erin. So really, there's a lot going on. It probably honestly a little bit too much.
Well, sometime down the line, I'd love to get both of you and hear husband and wife as creators talking at the same time in response to questions.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Can I ask, did you feel empowered now that you have one middle grade under your belt? You said this other three-part middle grade mystery. Did having one empower you to go forward and writing more?
Well, I will say the mystery series is so much different.
Okay.
Just a completely different writing experience and reading experience than Potion is. Um, it definitely empowered me to do more long form work. Um, but that said, this book, Potion, was so complicated and so difficult. It's been an 8-year project,
Right.
more like 3 years of daily
Okay.
struggle. Um, and it's hard to imagine having the strength and energy to try it again. But I do think I'll do it one more time. That's what I keep
Okay.
telling Erin. I keep saying I think I have one more in me, but I might need a 10-year break.
10-year break. Okay. And where you're at, you've got time for a 10-year break. There we go. All right. So you talked about how much you love reading and how it had such a big impact on you, loving those middle grade books in third and fourth grade. Can you share with us a book that you have just loved?
Um, yes. So usually when I'm asked this question, I bring up like one of my favorite books from when I was in third or fourth grade. But I've already mentioned all of those books talking to
Right.
you today. So I think I'm going to mention what I would call like a really deep cut. So a book that I'm confident that you've never heard of, a
Oh, okay.
book that
Okay.
nobody that is listening to this podcast has probably ever heard of, but I love so much. It's called Bambert's Book of Missing Stories,
Okay. You got
and
me. I have not heard of it.
it's by an author named Reinhardt Jung. It was
Okay.
originally published in Germany, but it has been published, I think, 2 different times here in the United States in the last
Oh,
25
okay.
years. But it's difficult to find. You may have to find a used copy at this point.
Okay.
Uh, I just love it so much. It's something I wish I saw more of in middle grade. It's a book of short stories.
Right.
It's which is not, you just don't see that very much.
Right.
And I personally love short stories.
Yes.
As a grown up, I read them all the time. There's something so satisfying, and it's a really unique form. It's like picture book writing. There are good short story writers, and sometimes those people never go on to write anything longer at all. It's its own really
Right. I feel like it
special
could be
art form.
tricky because to like sum it all up so concisely in
Yeah,
so many fewer in so few
it's
words.
it's like a picture book in some ways in that if you kind of don't know what's happening and where you are in the first couple pages, then
Yes.
it's not going to work.
Right.
Um, so it's really tricky. So I really respect people that can do it well. And this is
Nice.
probably just the absolute best book of short stories I've ever come across for middle grade readers.
Yeah, I can't think of many short stories like all put together in one binding that I really enjoy that aren't also spooky. Like, we've got
Yes, yeah,
lots
yeah,
of like sets of short stories that are spooky ones, but yeah,
yeah. You get
it's
it in
not.
genre fiction, so you get
Yeah,
spooky, you get
yeah,
mystery,
yes.
stuff like that. But not just stories.
Right. All right. All right. Well, I'm gonna go look for it. Might take some looking, but I'll see what I can find. We've got a couple good used bookstores where I live, so I'll start there. So, yeah. All right. Well, that sounds great. Thank you, Philip, for taking the time to talk with us today. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
I hope that you enjoyed this conversation with Philip Stead about his book, A Potion, a Powder, A Little Bit of Magic, or Like Lightning in an Umbrella Storm, A Story Out of Order. If you like my podcast, Book Cuddle, I'd really appreciate it if you could take a second and rate and review Book Cuddle on your podcast platform, because that helps more people to be able to find the podcast and helps it grow so that more people can find great books for kids.